Nano considered reducing the number, fearing that the owner couldn't handle it, but was stopped by the group that rushed towards him at once. However, this didn't panic the main character. With a flick of his hand, he managed to hit a few of them, causing them to vanish in an instant. Was it because he had blocked all their first moves, or what? Just as he was feeling pleased, a few remaining ones aimed directly at him. As they leaped up to dodge, they collided with the ceiling, knocking themselves out. Nano immediately paused the actions of the shadows, causing them all to collapse to the ground, making him feel a headache because he had been too engrossed in training and forgotten about the cramped space. He also glanced up to see if there was any damage. Well, that's enough for now. Master will find out soon. Later, he had to go report the situation to create a record. He seemed very displeased because he had warned him carefully before, but what did he do in the end? It's really beyond me. My head hurts so much I want to die. I've warned you before, haven't I? If you cause any more trouble, you'll be banned from using this place altogether. So, he had to lead the martial artists to another location. The main character still didn't understand where he was being taken or whether he was being punished. Inside, he felt that this place was only half as good as the previous one, but the distance between the room doors was much greater. From now on, your kid should come here to train. If I let you continue training there, won't you end up breaking more rooms or what? It turns out this training room is reserved for martial artists who have passed the 4th examination, and whose internal strength must reach its peak to stay here. Of course, you haven't passed that test yet, but your internal strength is probably enough, and considering the incidents you caused, I've reported to the higher-ups, and they've agreed to open the door for early training. Thien Pham was very curious why the master knew, but then he understood. Punching a hole in the wall over there means coming over here. That's why the hardness level of this thit stone is several times higher than that thit stone. Even if you exert all your strength, it's very difficult to puncture it. So don't worry, just focus on training. Indeed, the new room is much more spacious and suitable than the previous one. He continued his training, but it seems he no longer wants to fight with 10 holographic images. Nano is planning to create a shadow of Sumom, which seems to be the most suitable. This is good news, although it's challenging. It's better than fighting with Thien Hu Thien. The augmented reality enhances data collection into the user's eye, but what martial skill is he planning to install? His request is to continue with this word techniques. Although the holographic images are just illusions, the main character still feels very tense, especially when that shadow is his master. Indeed, it simulates his voice perfectly, even the tone of the foolish disciple. What nonsense is he daring to challenge the martial master? It's so irritating. Nano, turn off all the sound for me, please. The master is ranked among the top 10 masters of our sect. No matter what, I definitely can't be a match for him. So the only way is to use the oppressive technique. I thought so, but as soon as I rushed in, I realized all my techniques were easily blocked. Not only did I miss, but I also got hit. Though it's just a simulation, the bleeding feels real. The holographic image of Sumom continued to draw his sword and attack. I was caught off guard, which is normal. The malicious smile of the holographic image revealed itself as it used its third technique, Teep Vu That Lin, from Thesword techniques in midair. The main character was thrown off balance and fell to the ground without being able to react, taking hits one after another. Despite knowing beforehand that I'm absolutely no match for my master, I never thought that I would even be able to withstand a single move from him. The self-power of a supreme master, one of the top 10 masters of the Thien Than Ma Jiao, is truly terrifying. Nano is worried again, considering changing the character for the master, but he refused. Why, you foolish disciple, want to continue fighting? Because he doesn't know which move to use. He's thinking of using the supreme technique of the ancestor once, just to test its true power. The holographic image of Sumom laughed loudly and continued to charge at the main character. His eyes showed firm determination, waiting for the right moment. It's unclear who will gain the upper hand. Will bare hands defeat the sword, or will the sword defeat bare hands? Both dodging and retaliating at a dizzying pace, it seems like the main character's displayed technique is very suitable for fighting back against the sword techniques. Continues to exert his internal strength into his two fingers with an unpleasant expression, continuously aiming at the master's vulnerable spots. Now is the time to break through the opponent's defensive line. The moment has come. The sword energy in his hand aims straight at the target, but it seems not as simple as he thought. The main character is immediately knocked back, his body slamming against the wall behind him with a loud thud. Nano immediately halted the holographic image's actions. Even the supreme technique couldn't defeat the master's holographic image. But wait, his gaze began to focus on various positions on the opponent's body. In reality, it's not entirely impossible to hit him. The system has identified the positions where he used his sword energy. Even the final sword technique could have hit him in the middle, but it seems I'm still too shallow. Even though I could use sword techniques to break through my master's defenses, the disparity in our martial arts makes it impossible for me to cause critical damage. I've come to understand that even with knowledge, applying it quickly is not possible. In the next 4 years, I'm determined to complete the Ma Dao Quan's exam 6 times, and within those 4 years, my strength must surpass that of my master. 4 days later, at the training square of the Ma Dao Quan, it's unclear what today is like as there are many martial artists gathered from early morning. Team Pham feels discouraged because yesterday he couldn't even fight back against 10 holographic images of Huthin. The head instructor loudly inquired about the disciples' rest days. Ma disciples are still in unison in their response. Now I will explain the content of the third exam and distribute the Ma Long Dan. In this exam, 12 people will come together to create a sword formation. The discussion started lively indeed, as Fa Lem said. The condition for these 12 people to create the sword formation is that they must possess the standard martial arts of the Nat Lu lineage. As Lai Ho Men slammed the table, revealing the basic martial arts manual, also known as the Seven Devils Sword Technique, the head instructor continued, stating that if they absorb the Ma Long Dan today and practice the Seven Devils Sword Technique incessantly, they may achieve the standard martial arts of the Nat Lu lineage. Teen Pham, these words don't hold much significance. You can start today. From now until the third exam, within 4 weeks, once the teams successfully construct the sword formation, each team must defeat a martial arts head instructor standing before them, the head instructor announced. The intention is to overcome by defeating one of the martial arts head instructors at the Ma Dao Quan. Many martial artists feel challenged as fighting against supreme masters is quite difficult. Though Pham has heard Lim Fa talk about this, the selection of team members wasn't mentioned. This exam will be different from the previous ones. Each martial artist will have the freedom to act, and you can form your own team. The head instructor explained the process of selecting team leaders and provided martial arts manuals and the Ma Long Dan to everyone. It turns out it's not based on merit. Instead, he points directly to the 17 head instructors, each wearing a card. The condition to become a team leader is to obtain one of these cards within 7 days. This requirement is indeed very challenging for all the martial artists standing here. Ultimately, the key is to obtain the golden cards, which would then make it easier to find team members. In reality, this method not only increases the difficulty of the exam but also serves the purpose of filtering out ordinary martial artists. Ly Ho Min's thoughts seem unconventional. Perhaps he wants to identify the best among the good ones. Although it's said that within 7 days you must obtain the golden cards, if any martial artist is confident, they can try it now. After these words, everyone fell silent. No one dared to speak up. It seems like the head instructor's expectations are high. If someone successfully challenges, it will surely demonstrate their strength and courage. Suddenly, a raised hand catches everyone's attention. The eyes turn to where the martial artist is standing, still as cold as ever. Hoyan Ma Tong's mysterious charm. Next is Thin Pham, the 7th disciple of Group 8, and finally, Bak Kai, with the registration number 18. Ly Ho Min eagerly awaits the performance of these two young ones, Thin Pham and Bak Kai. Hu Thin seems hesitant to volunteer, while Bak Kai appears quite strong, having defeated a young master of one of the 6 major sects. You dare to step up, as expected. Very promising, the head instructor remarks. However, he's concerned about Thin Pham because the other 3 won't lend a hand. He intended to arrange it himself, but seeing the head instructor, he follows suit. The martial artist from Group 1 will fight first. As Ho Chin Truong volunteers, he's quickly matched with Du Thuan from Group 12. It seems like Du Thuan, with an infectious confidence, intends to challenge him. Ho Chin Truong doesn't want the head instructor's power to be overly displayed, making other martial artists fearful. Hence, he requests to fight against the 18th martial artist directly. This poses a bit of a problem as Bok Kai is from Do Thuan's group. The martial artist in charge of Group 1 will face Thien Pham. As they bow respectfully to each other, Thien Pham urges Nano to replicate everything meticulously, leaving no detail behind. Lai Ho Min announces loudly to declare the start, and the first one to act is Thien Min. With confidence in his eyes, he demonstrates Nu Huyen Van, which Du Thuan easily predicts and counters with that Ma Kim. Unfortunately, he fails to perceive the uniqueness of my martial arts. He's using that Ma Kim in its fifth form. The protagonist, at first glance, looked adept in his movements, but his aura was not that of an easy opponent. His footsteps were firm, accompanied by agile arms, executing movements with unwavering certainty. His animation skills were like a relentless barrage directed towards his opponent. From the outset, it was evident that his power had already reached its peak. How could the techniques of an ordinary martial artist withstand such prowess? Just by observing his martial arts, one could ascertain that he had already reached the level of a captain. Perhaps one should discard the notion of him being an ordinary martial artist and focus solely on his full combat capabilities. The opponent, now somewhat disoriented, couldn't understand why his supreme technique couldn't stop the protagonist's advances. He sensed that the protagonist's techniques resembled those engraved on ancient stone tablets. Though he dared not confirm, deep down, he suspected the author might have been a sword demon. Both engaged, producing chilling sounds with each clash. While the opponent's aura was strong, it was no match for the protagonist's consecutive gusts of wind, effortlessly neutralizing the attacks of the top martial artist of the Huyen Ma sect. The protagonist himself realized his lack of experience. No matter how hard he tried, he found it difficult to completely block the opponent's strikes. If victory couldn't be determined now, delayed it would only disadvantage him further. Anticipating the opponent's next move, he unleashed his internal energy to its maximum, determined to block the opponent's relentless attacks. He believed this exchange would decide everything. Initially, the opponent attempted to defend, but it seemed futile. As he lunged forward, the Huyen Ma sect's top martial artist unexpectedly lowered his body, leaving the opponent bewildered. How could he transition into a defensive stance so swiftly? The technique resembled those previously used by the protagonist, but its execution was altered instantly, making it difficult for the opponent to respond effectively. Realizing he needed to act quickly, the protagonist attempted to restrain his opponent, but just as he advanced, the opponent effortlessly evaded, leaving the protagonist off balance. In that moment of vulnerability, he was struck by the opponent's sword, throwing him off balance and causing him to fall backward. The outcome of the battle had reached its climax, and the crowd erupted in astonishment. This was the first time someone had defeated the head disciple, indicating the extraordinary level of the protagonist compared to the other martial artists. Lai Ho Min, knowing this technique most proficiently, belonged to Vu Tran Guyan, the head of the Huyen Ma sect. If anyone successfully mastered this technique, they would be considered a martial arts genius. Du Thuan took the initiative to pull out his card from his robe and handed it to the victor, signaling his attainment of the position of team leader from this moment forth in the third assessment. Thien Pham observed this with simplicity, wondering if merely receiving the card was enough, or if he had to demonstrate something more to earn it. Why could each person only obtain one card? Quickly, the second match began between the protagonist and the manager of the first team. Putting aside trivial thoughts, he focused on how to successfully acquire the card. Min Hyu looked at his opponent and felt that this guy was quite capable, not showing any fear. This was natural because the protagonist had overcome all obstacles, making everyone think he couldn't possibly surpass this round. However, putting this guy aside, Min Hyu was somewhat surprised to see him fall behind. He had initially thought that even the top-ranked candidate couldn't make it through, yet he slipped back. Truly unexpected. But one could only be lucky up to this point, Thien Pham thought. The opponent's determined look confirmed that he would crush the opponent. At a glance, he knew Thien Pham was using the Vu Dao technique. "I ask you to attack first," he said. He understood he had just stepped into the realm of the peak, and compared to the veteran, he still had much to learn. This made him realize that the opponent was underestimating him. In that case, he had to use all his strength. A decisive move to avoid prolonged battles. The attack surpassed Min Hyu's expectations, stunning him with its speed. The opponent's hand struck directly forward, causing him to recoil due to carelessness, losing his balance and stepping backward. The protagonist pressed on relentlessly, overwhelming his opponent. Manhwa had to muster his sevenfold internal strength to fend off the blows. He realized this wasn't internal strength but external skill. Why did he think he could defeat this guy so easily? Feeling increasingly inferior, Manhwa decided to give it his all. Thien Pham pushed back, recognized that his opponent's power was not yet perfect, so he was excited. 2 consecutive moves, the 4th and 6th sword of the 7 swords, were unleashed. Although he didn't need to use Nano, the protagonist could see the countless flaws in his opponent's techniques compared to the sword knowledge on the Thongok Thatch tablet. It was like child's play, easy to spot the weaknesses, but he didn't bother using the supreme martial arts of the celestial devil ancestor. Manhwa, thinking he was about to win, was caught off guard. The protagonist had decided to use all his strength to end the match in the second move, using a basic technique to neutralize all of the opponent's attacks. Although lacking in lethality, this surprised other martial artists. Even the watching head disciples couldn't believe their eyes. Lai Ho Men found it hard to believe that a common technique within the Vu Dao method could break the 7 swords technique of the That Ma Kiem. Manhwa grimaced as he was intercepted by a child, calculating to use all his strength to knock down the protagonist. Lai Ho Men felt worried, wondering what the protagonist was thinking, employing such a deadly technique. He didn't have time to defend himself. He only managed to raise his hand in a futile attempt. This resulted in immediate internal injuries as energy invaded his body. Nano quickly began healing the internal organs, but just as he retaliated, the process was gradually underway. The opponent couldn't understand why his attack had no effect. Clearly, he must have suffered internal injuries. Yet why hadn't he been defeated? Panicked, Manhwa, lost in thought, created a fatal opening. Although he tried to use his body to block, he was too slow. His right rib cage was immediately broken, causing him to cry out in agony and cough up blood. Everyone witnessing this scene was horrified. Manhwa groaned in pain, trying to cling to his opponent, but he paid no attention and collapsed to the ground, only managing to curse the protagonist as a monster. Thus, the second match between the martial artist and the head disciple ended. Ultimately, Thien Pham emerged victorious. No one cheered. Instead, silence prevailed. No one dared to speak up. Hu Thien said something different in Lim's tone, feeling uneasy as that calm two's strength increased. Lai Ho Men understood that Thien Pham was a martial arts genius, on par with the sword demon who created the 7 swords. He regretted conceding his dream of becoming the protagonist's master. Manhwa's condition was severe, needing immediate treatment from Bok Trong Min. Preliminary examinations suggested 3 broken ribs, which wasn't surprising, given Thien Pham's previous feats. If the opponent had been aware, he would have been more cautious. The protagonist held the card in his hand, appearing pensive. Finally, his true strength had earned him the honor of being the second team leader. Looking at the martial artists, the head disciple silently vowed not to underestimate them. As long as they had talent and strong capabilities, they could surpass these foolish head disciples. The only concern was losing face if his disciple were defeated without realizing that the sect had created successors. Criticizing himself for hastily choosing martial artist number 18 as his opponent, he failed to recognize the genius who selected him for a remarkable battle. Due to much gossip and chatter, Lai Ho Men urged, "Hurry up. Let's finish the last battle so we can rest early." Bak Kai strode out confidently to greet the head grandmaster. Many head disciples whispered to each other, "If he loses again this time, he might lose the right to teach these kids." Below, the other martial artists, numbering up to 50, wondered if participant number 18 would create another miracle this time. His talent is unquestionable. I hope the head grandmaster takes him as his disciple. You're humble and respectful. Huyen Le, I'll teach you everything I know, he said with a smile. After exchanging greetings, both returned to their defensive stances. Ho Chin Truong emanated a powerful aura. Just a look in his eyes instilled fear. Bak Kai couldn't believe this was the same person who had spoken so casually with him earlier. Nevertheless, no matter what, he wouldn't regret dueling with him. Having finished his thoughts, he swiftly charged towards the head grandmaster to attack. First, Thien Pham meticulously replayed all of his actions to later incorporate them into his training. Regarding Thin Min's actions during the fight, he had already analyzed them all to prepare for potential clashes and apply theoretical knowledge and practice. He had devised several moves to counter the martial artist's techniques. Although this group was fast, with his experience, he could easily dodge all their attacks. Why couldn't Bok Kai touch his opponent's body? Quickly, lower your back foot, the head grandmaster instructed him. This confused the martial artist, who became distracted as he both attacked and received guidance from the head grandmaster. His foot touched the opponent's palm straight into Ho Chin Truong's stomach, then spun around on the pivot, causing him to notice. This made his opponent curious, quickly turning around. Bok Kai continued with more strikes, accompanied by a plethora of internal force. Other martial artists were astonished as someone had finally managed to hit the head grandmaster, though it didn't seem quite right. Bok Kai's foot had struck the master's sword, and only now did he show signs of pain due to carelessness. His body was pushed backward, his legs bleeding and throbbing so much he couldn't lift them. Unexpectedly, in that moment, the head grandmaster managed to unleash his sword energy. It was truly a supreme skill. You should use your techniques wisely. If you're injured like this, what will you do? Bok Kai understood that the head grandmaster standing before him had much greater power than the two ordinary head disciples. Although with his current strength, he knew this was illogical. He only thought this far. As he was planning his next move to determine victory or defeat, Ho Chin Truong seemed very pleased with the efforts of martial artist number 18. Despite being severely injured in his lower leg, he showed resilience, and Bok Kai didn't hesitate to continue, even without his right leg. He still had his left, so he remained confident. Headmaster rushed forward eagerly to confront, thinking his opponent was already defeated, so there was no need to worry. He flew towards Bok Kai, who had lowered himself, causing the head grandmaster to be surprised. With just a quick glance, he knew this was just a bait. Bok Kai again used the same technique as before, despite his continuous bleeding wounds diminishing his power slightly. This kid is quite capable. Unfortunately, he's still inexperienced. Oh well, this is the end, thought the head grandmaster. Ho Chin Truong, unsure of where it came from, was suddenly flung forward by the martial artist. Though not using sword energy, it was enough to knock him back, signaling the end of the match. It was regrettable for Bok Kai, with his talent, to face such a formidable opponent. Many observers understood that the number 1 and number 7 martial artists were monsters capable of defeating the two head disciples. Bok Kai, feeling breathless and coughing up blood, understood this. Though defeated, he was fortunate that the opponent spared him. The protagonist held the card in his hand, appearing pensive. Finally, his true strength had earned him the honor of being the second team leader. Looking at the martial artists, the head disciples silently vowed not to underestimate them. As long as they had talent and strong capabilities, they could surpass these foolish head disciples. The only concern was losing face if his disciple were defeated without realizing that the sect had created successors. Criticizing himself for hastily choosing martial artist number 18 as his opponent, he failed to recognize the genius who selected him for a remarkable battle. Due to much gossip and chatter, Lai Hong Min urged, "Hurry up, let's finish the last battle so we can rest early." Bok Kai strode out confidently to greet the head grandmaster. Many head disciples whispered to each other, if he loses again this time, he might lose the right to teach these kids. Below, the other martial artists, numbering up to 50, wondered if participant number 18 would create another miracle this time. His talent is unquestionable. I hope the head grandmaster takes him as his disciple. You're humble and respectful. Huin Le, I'll teach you everything I know, he said with a smile. After exchanging greetings, both returned to their defensive stances. Ho Chin Truong emanated a powerful aura. Just a look at his eyes instilled fear. Bok Kai couldn't believe this was the same person who had spoken so casually with him earlier. Nevertheless, no matter what, he wouldn't regret dueling with him. Having finished his thoughts, he swiftly charged towards the head grandmaster to attack. First, Thien Pham meticulously replayed all of his actions to later incorporate them into his training. Regarding Thin Min's actions during the fight, he had already analyzed them all to prepare for potential clashes and apply theoretical knowledge in practice. He had devised several moves to counter the martial artist's techniques. Although this group was fast, with his experience, he could easily dodge all their attacks. Why couldn't Bok Kai touch his opponent's body? Quickly, lower your back foot, the head grandmaster instructed him. This confused the martial artist, who became distracted as he both attacked and received guidance from the head grandmaster. His foot touched the opponent's palm straight into Ho Chin Chuang's stomach, then spun around on the pivot, causing him to notice. This made his opponent curious. Quickly turning around, Bak Kai continued with more strikes, accompanied by a plethora of internal force. Other martial artists were astonished as someone had finally managed to hit the head grandmaster, though it didn't seem quite right. Bak Kai's foot had struck the master's sword, and only now did he show signs of pain due to carelessness. His body was pushed backward, his legs bleeding and throbbing so much he couldn't lift them. Unexpectedly, in that moment, the head grandmaster managed to unleash his sword energy. It was truly a supreme skill. You should use your techniques wisely. If you're injured like this, what will you do? Bak Kai understood that the head grandmaster standing before him had much greater power than the two ordinary head disciples. Although with his current strength, he knew this was illogical. He only thought this far, as he was planning his next move to determine victory or defeat. Ho Chin Chuang seemed very pleased with the efforts of martial artist number 18. Despite being severely injured in his lower leg, he showed resilience, and Bak Kai didn't hesitate to continue. Even without his right leg, he still had his left, so he remained confident. Headmaster rushed forward eagerly to confront, thinking his opponent was already defeated, so there was no need to worry. He flew towards Bak Kai, who had lowered himself, causing the head grandmaster to be surprised. With just a quick glance, he knew this was just a bait. Bak Kai again used the same technique as before, despite his continuous bleeding wounds diminishing his power slightly. This kid is quite capable. Unfortunately, he's still inexperienced. Oh well, this is the end, thought the head grandmaster. Ho Chin Chuang, unsure of where it came from, was suddenly flung forward by the martial artist. Though not using sword energy, it was enough to knock him back, signaling the end of the match. It was regrettable for Bak Kai, with his talent, to face such a formidable opponent. Many observers understood that the number 1 and number 7 martial artists were monsters capable of defeating the two head disciples. Bak Kai, feeling breathless and coughing up blood, understood this. Though defeated, he was fortunate that the opponent spared him. As they left, Ko Vuong Kat approached, acknowledging his earlier hesitation, but emphasizing the need to recruit other martial artists as lieutenants for 7th Young Master. While they had won the title of martial arts leader, concerns about the future lingered. Thien Fei Pham understood the significance of the title and its potential hidden intentions. Ko Vuong Kat reminded them that compared to the established sects, their power was still budding. Assuming the role of lieutenants was a responsibility they couldn't overlook. Unaware of the change in training location, Ko Vuong Kat suggested sending messages for coordination. Upon learning that 7th Young Master trained elsewhere, he expressed surprise, but determined to join him there swiftly. With the conclusion of the discussion, he returned to his usual training spot. Currently, the protagonist had reached the pinnacle of inner strength, with 60 years of experience in adjusting sword and knife energies. Grateful for the success achieved, he silently thanked Nano for its contribution. Nano readily agreed, prioritizing the owner's efforts over its own appearance. Quickly show me the playback of Bak Kai's recent decisive battle, he commanded. Nano promptly initiated the reality enhancement mode to replay the fight. As it looped through, he stopped at the moment where Bak Kai took a hit. Zoom in on the image, focusing on the areas 7th Guild Master wants to see, he instructed. Nano zoomed in closely, revealing the pale complexion of Bak Kai, bloodshot eyes, and bloodstains around the neck. I couldn't have guessed wrong, he murmured. At the headquarters of the Hong Dik Vi sect, memories of the morning's battle flooded back. The sheer power displayed by this individual far surpassed that of ordinary martial artists. It seemed like he had also reached the pinnacle of mastery. If he relied solely on the 7-demon sword, he might not be a match, though his martial arts weren't as formidable as sword techniques. The 7th martial artist's use of wind techniques was incredible. Even after only 4 hours, he seemed to grasp the essence of the 7-demon sword. He firmly believed that the little leader of the Knife Demon sect was no less powerful than the others. That's enough. We should stop here, Thien Hu Thien said softly, expressing gratitude tinged with regret. Then Hong Dik Vi also removed his martial arts badge. From now on, you have the authority to recruit members. I hope to hear good news in the future. It turned out that the seventh martial artist hadn't fully displayed his abilities in the morning, perhaps intentionally hiding his strength. Who should I challenge next? He pondered. Meanwhile, Bok Kai was enjoying his meal alone in the cafeteria when Thien Kong Van approached. The leader of the Sword Demon Sect was pleased with the performance of the 18th martial artist. However, mentioning this seemed to anger Bok Kai. Can't you see I'm eating? He snapped. Despite his displeasure, Thien Kong Van spoke gently, acknowledging the martial artist's prowess. He suspected that Bok Kai had just reached the pinnacle of mastery. Although the latter remained indifferent, Thien Kong Van's words caught his attention. If I don't tell you now, you might lose your life later, he warned. Bok Kai looked up from his meal to see Seventh Young Master. You're even more arrogant than the two before, Seventh Young Master remarked. Although not the junior sect leader of the 6 great sects, he wondered how Bok Kai thought he could recruit him. Sensing some misunderstanding, Bok Kai retorted, I'm not threatening you. I'm just saying I'm dying. That's not a threat, is it? Seventh Young Master clarified. You've been poisoned. Bok Kai was confused. What are you talking about? He asked. Recalling the battle earlier, he realized Seventh Young Master was referring to the paleness and redness he experienced then. This made Bok Kai reconsider. As the leader of the 12th sect, he always had to be vigilant against members of the Poison Demon Sect. However, he couldn't understand why Seventh Young Master would mention this. Even if he were truly poisoned, what did it have to do with him? After pondering, he apologized for the misunderstanding, assuming Seventh Young Master was paying his respects. Why did I think you were paying your respects? He wondered. He apologized again, realizing his mistake. You should eat together for fun, Seventh Young Master suggested. His mistake. You should eat together for fun, Seventh Young Master suggested. But the protagonist ignored and went straight to the point. Brother, can you check this person? I suspect he's been poisoned. Upon hearing the word poison, the doctor turned back in surprise, and all three went to the office to examine Bok Trong-min. He took out something and instructed Bok Kai to inhale it all. Inhale deeply through your mouth, my good boy, the doctor said. Following the physician's instructions, after a few breaths, he felt very uncomfortable because the smell of the substance had caused numerous basic reactions. The first thing was nausea, and he vomited all over the floor. Bok Trong-min was certain that if this was the case, he was definitely poisoned. Knowing that the martial arts technique couldn't find the cause, the doctor stated the reason. Because this type of poison resides in the bloodstream, it's challenging to detect. It accumulates in the stomach and lungs, gradually spreading and causing death. This poison can be added to food to accumulate or crushed into powder and burnt into a candle while the victim sleeps. Since the amount of poison used is minimal, it's difficult to detect when inhaled during sleep. Remember to think about who could have done this. Bok Kai immediately remembered the first time he entered the dormitory. There was a little attention as he fought with Then Truong Thien. His henchman appeared very angry but couldn't do anything. On top of that, he even declared he wasn't afraid of anyone. This made the little head of the toxic devil sect uncomfortable. He had warned himself to use poison. The longer it stayed, the more terrifying its revenge would be. Now understanding the origin, Bok Kai resented and blamed Then Truong Thien as despicable. Bok Trong-wai found a way to neutralize it. But Thien Pham mentioned the red spots on his neck, which would have happened when he was hit in the chest during practice, right? Because that would stimulate the lungs, causing the symptoms of poisoning to appear momentarily. However, if the symptoms of poisoning occur continuously, even the best doctors would find it difficult to cure. Why does that Kong Tu know about this? Because I know it's happened to my parents before, and they died. That's why I always keep an eye on Bok Kai. At this point, Bok Kai tearfully thanked the protagonist for detecting the poison in time, as he didn't want anyone else to die because of that despicable poison. Just as he finished speaking, his eyes and demeanor made Bok Kai notice the fear in his two disciples. Why does Tu Duong have such terrifying martial energy? Bok Trong-min interrupted their conversation and asked the 18th martial artist to stay and rest for further examination. If you go back to the dormitory and get poisoned again, what should we do now? Are you planning to find that poisoner to seek revenge? Indeed, Bok Kai also had that thought in mind. Thien Pham reminded priority should be given to treating first. As for Then Truong Thien, let me take care of him right now. I'll go find him to have a little heart-to-heart talk." As he was about to leave, the voice of Thin Mutton came from nowhere. He mentioned the usual lurking place of the little head of the toxic devil sect, advising them to go to the forest opposite the dormitory. If what he said was true, soon there would be someone lying next to him. Baek Kyan and the doctor didn't understand why the protagonist was scheming like this on the bed. Thin Mutton laughed heartily, pleased with his intention to let the two sides fight each other, both benefiting from it. Later, the scene changed to a forest near the dormitory. A martial artist was wandering around, and Thin took the opportunity at night to gather poisonous herbs for preparation because he had used the devil's pill. So, he stepped into the first stage of the supreme skill of destroying the devil's poison. From then on, he was about to reach the 5th level until that wretch died of poisoning. Then I'll see him off myself. Nanshan had heard all the soliloquies from behind and asked, "Do you think torturing others is a good thing to do? How can you, because the lamp is too dim, so you can't see clearly whether this guy is a leader or a martial artist? Why does your wretched family think it's fun to play with others by using poison?" Ha! Holding the lamp out, Thin finally recognized that he was his half-brother, different mothers but the same father. "Why did your despicable family come here? Why did you know that I used poison? Did you hear it or something?" Upon seeing his confused face, Thin burst into laughter and didn't bother to deny it. "That's right. Why don't you know about it? Didn't your mother also die from poison?" Just as I was saying that, he immediately took a punch to the face, causing his lips and teeth to be all over the place. He shouldn't have brought up Thin Pham's parents. Perhaps he wouldn't have received such treatment. Before he could finish speaking, Thin Pham rushed like lightning. A punch hit Thin Thin's face so quickly that he couldn't react or feel anything. This showed that the pain of losing his only loved one was too great for the protagonist. The little head of the toxic devil sect was thrown far away, rolling like a ball. His face was twisted to one side, looking quite ridiculous. Perhaps he still didn't understand what he had done to deserve such treatment. Thin lost his spirit due to being beaten too severely. In the quiet night, his groans grew louder and louder. A trickle of blood flowed from his nose, looking terrifying. He sat up exhaustedly, groaning with each breath, wondering, so what exactly happened? Nanshin continued to stride slowly, step by step. "Don't be afraid. Now it truly begins." Although very worried, he comforted himself. "My life is still preserved because the rule in the devil's sect is that if you kill someone in the sect, you'll be immediately expelled." Although eager to get up and fight back, he couldn't move his arms and legs. "Do you know you did something you shouldn't have done? And do you know what that is?" Ignoring Thin Pham's words, he struggled to move his body. Slowly, he began to regain sensation, albeit with a chilling sensation spreading from his body. The protagonist raised his fist again to continue the attack. "Let me tell you the reason why Thin used such venomous words for his deceased mother." His eyes lit up as he managed to control his actions. He then began to stand up and retaliate immediately. "You little piece of trash! Who said you could let your guard down? I haven't finished speaking yet." Then, with surprise in his eyes, Thin found that his punch had been effortlessly neutralized. He didn't understand how his successful force didn't have any effect. The protagonist continued to tightly grip his opponent's fist. He forcefully twisted it to the side, causing him to cry out in pain. The grip was so tight that blood seeped from his fingertips. Thin, fearing that Thin Pham had sinister intentions, quickly recoiled his hand. He brought it up in front of the protagonist's face, emitting a mixture of smoke and toxins. This forced him to step back without stopping. Thin continued to pursue him, gaining the upper hand and continued to spray poison on the protagonist's body. He groaned softly as the poison took effect. His face became contorted in an instant. Indeed, he had fallen victim to his opponent's poisonous technique. When reaching the 4th level of the 3-poison demon technique, the body could contain 7 types of toxins. Among them, the most lethal was the poison of death. Before learning this, the toxic devil sect had warned against using it because its only effect was death. However, Thin Pham didn't scream in agony anymore. He also gradually stood up. The corroded marks on his face had recovered. Nanshin had timely activated his defense and restored the damaged areas. Thin stood still, observing his every move. only to witness in the blink of an eye the protagonist completing his recovery and restructuring the damaged areas. He muttered in disbelief, unable to comprehend the situation. How could the poison be neutralized? But his skin regenerated so quickly. This was absolutely impossible. Even the most supreme master couldn't bear it. Just thinking about it was terrifying enough. He collapsed in fear, sitting down, staring straight at Thien Pham's face. He began to show disdain, confused by the fact that his opponent was a poisonous monster renowned for using toxins. Why couldn't he use them? Tien gradually advanced towards him, continuously speaking up. No matter what, I'm determined not to forgive you and your tribe for using poison. Meanwhile, the protagonist continued to deliver numerous physical blows, kicking and punching relentlessly until the young master of the poisonous sect had no strength left to resist. His mouth was now unable to form coherent pleas. He was just groaning and begging for mercy. Tien Pham seemed indifferent to his opponent's pleas, ignoring his cries for mercy and continuing his onslaught relentlessly, making the young master of the poisonous sect wail in pain as blood splattered around him. Though his words were unclear, they seemed to be begging for his life. Now, Tien Pham began to respond, using words. "Are you begging for your life?" he asked. "Is your intention to beg for mercy? Isn't it you who caused my mother's death in agony? So who will plead for my mother?" Truong Thien's heart began to beat faster. He understood that there was no chance left because he was too helpless. He considered shouting loudly to signal to the sect leaders to find an acupoint for Tien Pham to render him speechless. But all he managed were a few muffled pleas. "Are you planning to call for help?" Tien Pham sneered. "Do you hear me? Don't think I'll let you off that easily. This is the hand that sprayed poison on my face, right? Well, let's see if you can speak after this," he said, striking him hard again, causing him to groan incessantly. Tien Pham continued to mercilessly torture his opponent, treating him like a punching bag. "Yeah, keep moaning," he said, his hand now completely mangled and looking repulsive. "Today, I won't kill you because insects like you don't deserve to be expelled from the demonic sect. Instead, I'll make you suffer to the point of begging for death. Now, let's start with some bones, shall we?" And from there began the horrifying nightmare of Truong Thien. Shortly after, the scene became unbearable to watch. The young master's limbs were completely disabled. Only now did he begin to regret using poison on Bai Kai. He thought about the method of using poison and gradually recalled the past. It was this very thing that had caused the tragic death of Tien Pham's parents 6 years ago when he was still a child. Truong Thien had the opportunity to come into contact with this poison back then. He diligently read books in his mother's shop. Nothing would have happened if he hadn't witnessed a stranger receiving poison from his mother. If he had learned martial arts, he probably wouldn't have paid attention, but his mother started questioning him about how to use it. If that hadn't happened, he would never have known what he intended to use it for. The other person just muttered a few incomprehensible words before leaving, but his mother paid very close attention. Then Truong Thien's eyes and smile revealed something very mysterious. Less than a year later, news of the death of the 7th wife of the sect leader spread throughout the demonic sect. His henchmen were ecstatic upon hearing the news, but not long after, the sect leader sent investigators who discovered the truth. Without the help of the White Spider Master, Bok Kong Vu, explaining the type of poison that could be bought anywhere in the world, the matter might not have sunk so far. The sect leader would have had time to investigate the cook using poison, but he only confessed to receiving it from a woman with a masked face. From there, the aristocracy declared the severance of the marital relationship between the sect leader's wife and the wife of the former sect leader of the poison sect. The former sect leader was also relieved of his position as an elder. Then Truong Thien's mother wanted to reveal everything, but it was too late. She warned her son to keep this secret safe, otherwise, even if the sect leader found out, he would be hated. Over time, burdened by guilt, she passed away in that state. Truong Thien only wanted to reveal the whole truth, but had no other choice. Because of his promise to his mother and also because of his future position as the sect leader, he remained silent, blaming everything on the mysterious woman who had harmed the flower wife. Back to the present, he shed tears knowing that there was no chance left. No matter how diligently he trained, he couldn't face Tien Pham now. He also raised his voice. "If you continue to stay in the demonic sect, it will harm other martial artists. If I can't kill you, I'll destroy your den. After hearing these words, the opponent shook his head, showing reluctance. When the protagonist looked over, he thought he might want to explain further. He had released acupoints to hear those words clearly, but because of the severe internal injuries, he couldn't discern any words. After a while of analysis, Nano pointed out that Tianfam's mother did not die from the poison of the poison sect. The culprit who killed his mother was one of the wives of the sect leaders. So, please let my den be peaceful. But Truong Thien was afraid to be more specific. If he did, it would reveal the person who concocted the poison, which was his mother. Nano continued to analyze, confirming that the real culprit was from the fifth sect. Why are you silent? Observe carefully his face. I trusted him to be the culprit until now, but why isn't he? Nano continued to scan Truong Thien's face. It seemed that there was a change in his facial expression, with a 75% chance of detecting the danger. He groaned incessantly. Tianfam, enraged, added a few more blows for his deceit. The protagonist struck directly below his opponent's abdomen, causing him so much pain that he couldn't scream anymore. He continued, using even more force, reaching the vital points. Now, the protagonist had eliminated a rival contending for the position of future sect leader. Meanwhile, Bok Trong-min was still awake, feeling uneasy. He thought he should prepare an antidote to guard against Tianfam's possible return. Suddenly, a loud kick echoed in the quiet night. Upon seeing the sight before him, Bok Kai and Dr. Nguyet had to wake up to investigate. The young master of the demon sect was startled when he saw the scene in front of him. He demanded an explanation from the protagonist. Later, the doctor checked his pulse to examine. He discovered that the patient's meridians had been destroyed inside the body, yet contained the most essential part of the poison sect, the 3 deadly poisons. Because the meridians were destroyed, it manifested as poisoning. How could Thon Kong Tu not know the consequences when he did this? He quickly took out his tools to unblock all the meridians to ensure that the blood circulation was not obstructed. The doctor smelled the blood and understood that there was still a chance to save the patient's life. Perhaps he practiced toxic skills, so his body's resistance was strong. However, the current situation indicated that keeping the poison in his body would eventually be fatal. So, the only solution here is to detoxify the entire body internally. After a thorough search, Trong Min finally found the antidote left by his master, which he had stuffed into his school bag to preserve his life. Now in a state of fearing for his life, he asked Nano to find a way to detoxify. However, Nano didn't have the detoxification function of another entity, so as a last resort, he had to instruct Nano to analyze the toxic components stored in the blood on his shoulder. To analyze the toxic components in the blood, we needed the owner to directly touch it to complete the analysis. According to the results, there were 7 types of toxins mixed together to create an extremely potent poison. Knowing the reason, he now continued to request the system to scan all the medicinal materials in the medicine cabinet to see which one could be used to detoxify the quickest. The required medicines included dandelion root, fishwort, great burdock, and nitrocateconite. As for the doctor, he had temporarily suppressed the spreading poison in his body. Suddenly, the scent of the medicine permeated the room. Taking a sniff, the doctor recognized the smell of Aconitum carmituli. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Because of the urgent need for detoxification, I had to prepare the medicine myself," Trong Min replied. Upon hearing this, the doctor appeared puzzled, wondering how he knew about poison, and demanded detoxification. He continued to inspect the medicine ingredients, finding them perfectly matched. Could this kid have studied pharmacology before? He wondered. There was no problem with what he had prepared, but did he know about the toxins in his body? Tin Pham had explicitly stated that there were 7 types of toxins. Despite his doubts, the doctor agreed to use it. After the medicine was prepared and Truong Thien was being treated, he had done everything he could to prevent the poison from spreading. Perhaps acupuncture was needed a few more times. The medicine he prepared was very accurate, but next time, he needed an explanation beforehand. Did he really destroy its balance, or was it just a rumor? The Taoist temple was a world of weakness and strength. Could this be overlooked? Tin Pham thanked him for his concern, but he knew better. However, no matter what, he was still a child who had become cold and cruel because of the power struggle. If he had made up his mind like that, there was nothing more to say. He just hoped that in the future, whatever he did, he would consider the consequences beforehand. Without real power, it was better to live wisely. Everything had to leave oneself a way out. After finishing his moral lecture, Trong Min allowed him to return to the dormitory to rest. Bak Kai also expressed his desire to accompany him back. They walked out of the inn together. The main character had countless thoughts upon hearing the doctor's words. He knew that Nano's assistance was very powerful, but he still couldn't imagine the forces within the Devil Sect. Perhaps he had overestimated his own strength and become arrogant. Bak Kai, who was behind, also spoke up. May I ask why seventh brother destroyed the opponent's Dandian? At that time, I couldn't control my anger. If I had let him go, not only you, but I feared that many other martial artists would suffer the same fate. Seventh brother replied. After hearing this, Bak Kai felt impressed. Although his judgment may be flawed, compared to other sect leaders, he truly knows how to think for others, he thought. As he was pondering further, a distant call echoed, and the juniors rushed over to inquire about the situation. Concerned for their leader, Bak Kai took the initiative to go elsewhere and stood watching the group of the main character. He can command such loyalty. He truly possesses leadership skills, he lamented. Feeling melancholic, he decided to return to the dormitory. However, before leaving, he sought permission. Weren't you about to say something to me just now? The main character asked. It's nothing. Don't worry about it, Bak Kai replied, brushing it off. The seniors reminded everyone to return to the dormitory, or they would violate the rules of the Devil Sect. Thin Pham recounted the situation to the group about the previous incident. While True King Cat understood the leader's resentment, he also advised against excessive actions. Even within the Devil Sect, the 6 great sects had no right to intervene. They all promised to train diligently to be useful to their leader in the future. This matter was significant, as they would undoubtedly become enemies of the Devil Sect. Therefore, they needed to prepare everything to guard against it. Ho Bong shared the same concerns, fearing the sect leader would escalate things. The main character understood that destroying the Dandian was no different from taking someone's life in the martial arts world. But he had already made a mistake. Unsure of what to do next, time passed until the next morning when the elders summoned him to lie home in his office. The most worrying issue finally came. After receiving permission, Thin Pham entered the martial arts hall alone. However, unlike usual, the person above didn't bother to respond. Instead, the sound of writing echoed in the incredibly silent atmosphere. Feeling helpless, he waited patiently for the sect leader to glance over a few times before continuing to write. The feeling now was like an invisible thread dividing them. No longer were there harsh words or bullying, just an eerie calmness that was almost terrifying. After a while, it seemed like his work was done. Thanks to you, I have to write a bunch of explanations, he said. So don't be sad if I don't respond to your greetings. With that said, he motioned for the martial artists to find a place to sit and talk. First of all, we need to settle the matter at hand. I'll say this as the sect leader of the Devil Sect. The act of destroying someone else's Dandian, tantamount to depriving them of their second life, was an unprecedented foolish act throughout history. If we don't handle this well, it's hard to avoid someone repeating it again. The main character remained silent, listening to the punishment about to be decided as the sect leader of the Devil Sect. I will revoke the victory you obtained in the third trial and impose a 5-day repentance sentence in the forbidden area, the sect leader announced calmly. The main character looked visibly curious. He had expected a much harsher punishment. It seemed the Devil Sect's regulations only expelled martial artists in cases of failure in trials or homicide. Thin Pham had been so worried he couldn't sleep all night over this matter. If you had known the consequences of your actions, perhaps you wouldn't have acted so recklessly, right? The sect leader remarked. Understanding the difficulty of revoking the victory, the time spent imprisoned would end up with only 1 day left after outdoor time. Who knew how much longer Jiu Dao would keep that thing by his side? While Lai Homen remained stern, he temporarily showed leniency by giving seventh brother a chance to start anew. As the matter transitioned from public affairs to personal ones, the sect leader exerted some internal energy to impose a formidable presence. Thin Pham flinched, never having felt such intense pressure before. With his current level, it was hard to judge the sect leader's true strength. Now I won't speak as the sect leader anymore but as an elder in the Devil Sect, the sect leader declared, shifting the tone. Your previous actions, Civic Brother, weren't meant as a threat but rather to create a private space where sensitive matters could be discussed. Right now, you and I can converse freely without fear of eavesdropping. I initially thought you would be the one to lead great endeavors, but I didn't expect such impulsive actions. Thien Pham began to apologize, but the sect leader waved it off. What's with all the apologies? Why do you always apologize whenever something happens? He asked, somewhat exasperated. This situation may be too difficult for you to handle. If you cause trouble, but lack the ability to clean up after yourself, then it's useless. Lai Hongmen thinks if you knew that the devil sect was implicated in your mother's death, why didn't you just take out Truong Thien? Why keep him alive? If something happens later, you'll be helpless. The consequences of such reckless actions often lead to death or severe injury. This is essentially digging your own grave. Instead of focusing on one tree, consider the entire forest. Put aside childish hatred and anger and look at the bigger picture. Combining the words of the doctor and the sect leader, Thien Pham felt inexperienced and immature. The sect leader then inquired about his purpose in joining the devil sect. After pondering for a while, the main character replied, I came here to become stronger than anyone else in the sect, to channel my hatred and resentment towards my upbringing into motivation for improvement. Do you understand? Right now, I'm also one of the minor sect leaders. Do you want to let your feelings of hatred and anger cloud your judgment in the final battle for the sect leader position? The elder fire marshal hinted to Thien Pham that allowing emotions to dominate reason would ruin everything. Thien Pham muttered to himself that he understood the sect leader's good intentions completely. The sect leader angrily retorted, if you understood, then I wouldn't have to go through this trouble. If you're determined to become the future of our sect, remember a few things. Keep a heart as passionate as fire but act with a cool head. Otherwise, forget about revenge, or you'll be crushed even before hatching. These words were undeniably true, as Thien Pham's current actions were solely focused on seeking revenge against the minor sect leaders. The main reason for this was his parents' death, which had driven him to madness. However, seeking vengeance wasn't inevitable. He lacked the necessary composure and rationality. The sect leader observed his every move at this moment. Thien Pham didn't seem mature enough to understand his words. You must understand and compensate for your shortcomings. If possible, the future of Thien Zhao will produce a true monster comparable to the legendary heavenly demon founder, the sect leader continued. Therefore, in his mind, Thien Pham becoming the sect leader would bring about a revolution in teaching methods, as what mattered now was to cut off the divine power. The protagonist's task was to return the token he had previously obtained. He took the disciples' teachings to heart, expressing gratitude for the sect leader's grace. Immediately, the other elders swooped in, officially escorting him to the forbidden chamber for 5 days of penance. As he was about to speak, requesting some time to bid farewell to his fellow disciples, the sect leader dismissed it. You're detained in the forbidden chamber. I'll inform them myself, but now they're no longer fellow disciples. They're just ordinary martial practitioners, the sect leader stated. Hearing this, the protagonist regretted his actions, feeling like a fool who couldn't foresee the consequences. The notice posted in the martial arts training ground stated that due to the destruction of a fellow disciple's cultivation, resulting in complete loss of martial arts, the punishment was confiscation of the token and 5 days confinement in the forbidden chamber. It warned other disciples that repeating such actions would lead to double penalties or expulsion. Many were afraid and deemed the protagonist too cunning and sinister. If he graduated, they might never want to see him again. The curiosity grew. Thien Thien laughed, thinking Thien Pham was truly insane. However, he paused to consider his actions. He worried that his bid for the position of junior sect leader might be disrupted by Thien Pham. Meanwhile, Thien Min remained silent, showing no opinion. Thien Pham's followers were also troubled. Ko Vuong knew that even if they returned, they might not have enough time to obtain tokens from the sect leaders. They were considering stealing tokens from other disciples when Bok Kai suddenly appeared. Though his intentions were unclear, he observed Thien Pham's situation closely. The elders guarded the forbidden chamber vigilantly. Though it seemed late, there was still some internal unrest. However, Thien Pham remained focused on martial arts practice, buoyed by the sect leader's words. After the training session ended, exhausted, he contemplated the remaining 3 days with despair. The normal martial artists dispersed for the day, leaving a quiet atmosphere conducive to cultivation. As Thien Pham thought about this, the cave door slowly opened. Thinking it was the expiration of his punishment, he was surprised to see a figure emitting a chilling aura. A rough hand gently extended, enveloping him in an invisible force, lifting him into the air. "Do you know if I've been affected, Neep?" The leader of the poison sect inquired with a raised voice, addressing Neep, who was none other than the mundane disciple. "Is it true that the useless body of Thien Truong Thien has been brought back to where it all began? People are claiming, but I can't believe my eyes anymore." Bak Van Ham signaled his subordinates to inform the sect leader beforehand, holding a letter from the innkeeper. As he handed it over, Bak Ngo angrily tore the paper to shreds, displaying a sense of helplessness. Another person, infuriated, spoke up. "We can't just let this slide. Some hire assassins while others prefer to do it themselves for the pleasure of watching. Our leader, suffering from the repercussions of the death of Lady Ho 6 years ago, cannot ignore this." Bak Van Ham exclaimed loudly, "We cannot turn a blind eye. Don't be foolish. If our reputation demands it, why does the ghost sect remain inactive when their own disciple was captured after Lady Ho's death? Isn't the sect leader always seeking opportunities to weaken the power of the Luck Day Tom? Now, if you all act against a newly recruited martial artist within the ghost sect, wouldn't this be a perfect excuse? Must we endure this frustration until that day leads the sect?" The sect leader sighed, realizing there was no better solution than meeting with Tao Fap to discuss the situation. "The prohibition against male interference is still in effect," he murmured, feeling restrained. Bak Ngo remained silent, preparing to unleash his mystical techniques upon the perpetrator who harmed his cherished disciple, Thien Pham. Despite exerting all his strength, he found no way to resist him. Although aware of the opponent's strength, he still couldn't grasp the purpose of such a high-level master seeking to meet him. "If I don't make a move now, sooner or later, I'll face real trouble. This isn't just about using internal energy. It seems he relies on his physical body to resist. How can his external martial arts be so formidable?" Although slightly taken aback, the leader of the poison sect regained his composure. He couldn't tolerate anyone resisting his will. The body of Thien Pham was being pulled downward by a terrifying force, and the large hand of the elder tightly gripped him.